It is often said that Monster Hunter has one of the best communities out there, and the guests of today's episode are the living proof of that. Team Lightside started as a meme community inspired by the popular Team Darkside, but today they are one of the biggest Monster Hunter communities out there, and we have two of the most important people from that group. If you don't know about them, this is the perfect opportunity to know more about them and about the community overall. Let's go. Okay then, so this is yet another episode of The Curious Hunter. This time I have not one, but two guests. I'm very excited for it. We have Maple from Team Lightside and Shinkrai, also a member of Team Lightside. From what I hear, they have both been cooperating and collaborating to do different types of content for this community. Is that right?
That is correct.
Correct.
Excellent. How you doing, guys?
I'm doing good. Just was doing some AT Rey Dau runs earlier, but
Nice.
yeah, been a bit of a challenge trying to do like a heroics run, but overall it's been pretty fun. How about you, Zun? How have you been?
It's going okay. I would say that I've also hyper focused on Rey Dau. Trying a little bit of speed running here and there. Not really my thing, but trying.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. And you, Shane, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. I've been playing a bit for Artian Rey Dau too, but I stopped because I felt a bit sick at the moment. Hopefully, it won't be an issue for this, but yeah, in general, I'm doing fine.
Okay, great. All right, so as it happens with every episode, what I'm going to do first, and because we have two guests today, I'm going to ask a series of very short questions that have to do with like your experience in a very surface level with Monster Hunter. So I guess I'm going to start with Maple. The idea is that you can give some short answers to these questions, mostly to know a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah, sounds good.
All right, so in general, can you introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name is Maple. I've been doing content creation for about a year now, I think. A little less than a year. I primarily just do kind of like event organizing. I'm not really too keen on video editing or like making those traditional content because I do not have the talent. But I particularly enjoy organizing stuff like for the community, just having open lobbies, skits, and videos that we can work on and just kind of like bring the community together.
Yeah, I've seen your events. They are they are quite something, actually. I would say many people would be envious of being in that environment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, if you look
group
at the if you look at the landscape of like the community right now, it's a bit shaky. So some people just want to
That's
chill and
absolutely
relax.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my motto always is it's just gonna be like have a group of friends just kind of messing around and just have fun, you know? Like content creation is kind of like the result of that, but at the end of the day, I'm just doing it because I want to have fun with friends and just meet new community members and just engage with everyone.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so what is your favorite Monster Hunter title?
Um, that's kind of a hard question, of course, but I think my most played is Iceborne, coming in around like 4 or 5 thousand hours. But I'm gonna be biased and say Monster Hunter Tri because that's the one I started with, and I have the most like memories with it.
Yeah, that's okay. That's reasonable. What's your favorite weapon then?
I play all the weapons, like here and there, but I think again my most played is Longsword. But coming into Wilds, Charge Blade has been my most played for that game.
Awesome. Okay. What is the best Monster Hunter fight or fights in your opinion?
Um, so when it comes to kind of like fights in general, I'm very big on like the music that comes with the monster. Like I feel like you could have like a really good gameplay, but if you don't have the like fitting music, it doesn't really hype up the thing. So a lot of my really favorite hunts are usually like ones that have really banger tracks like Raging Brachydios or like Vows tracks, like regular and old Fatalis. But if we're talking just like combat wise, I'd say Iceborne Fatalis. just really challenging but rewarding fight to just be a part of.
Yeah, nice. And what is your most hated monster?
Um, there isn't a monster that I actually particularly hate. Like, I think the easy answer is just to say something like Uragon, but um, I'm gonna be a bit more funny and kind of like creative and say I kind of have like a personal beef with Ghost Harag, not because I hate the gameplay or like the design
That's
or anything
very
like that.
specific. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's very, yeah. The story is just that I think this was when I first started playing Rise, and I was trying to teach my friends how to get into Monster Hunter because this was their first time playing it, and we were doing a Gosser Hag hunt, and I was trying to teach them the basics of capturing. So I was like, I'm gonna show you how to capture. We go back to our tent, grab our capturing thing. As I'm wire bugging back into the fight, Ghost Harag snipes me mid-air with his icicle attack and just immediately kills me and fails the hunt. And ever since that day, I've had a personal vendetta against Ghost Harag. No capture, just always kill him.
There's a lot of people that will go out of their way just to kill a monster, even though it's right there ready to capture.
Yep.
Yeah, just out of like a
it's what it
personal
is.
grudge.
Yep.
All right, let's move on now to Shin. Can you introduce yourself, Shin Cry?
Yes. Hello, I'm Shinkray. I'm a Monster Hunter creator, mostly known in Twitter or X. I mostly focus on helping as much people as possible with accurate information. I'm also one of the administrators of Team Lightside.
Awesome. What is your favorite Monster Hunter title?
That's easy. Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate or Double Cross.
Nice. Man, I keep getting these FOMO doses from Generations Ultimate. Anyway, what's your favorite weapon?
It's hard because it depends on the game, on the Monster Hunter game. But if I have to say, like, overall, it will be both the bowguns and lance.
Nice. Yeah, bowguns need some love in Wilds. They're heavily underrepresented right now. But yeah. Okay, what is the best Monster Hunter fight or fights in your opinion?
Okay, I think the best fights in Monster Hunter will be like Sinogre, Arkburn, and in specific the old generation Barstrax.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't know the difference. I didn't get to play.
What's wrong with Sunbreak? Or what's wrong with Rise? Do you have a beef?
Yeah, it will be too long just playing them now.
Right, perfect. Then, do you have a most hated monster?
Yes, and it's probably the only single monster I hate in the entire series, and it's Almudron. Like, I hate it.
Huh.
I finished like I have 2 runs in Monster Hunter Rise, like the Switch one and the PC one, and in the PC one I have 0 Almudron's hand.
Okay, just it's you don't even want to engage with it. It's just stay away from my sight. All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
There's always 2 sides. You hate a monster enough to just kill it every time, or you just never touch it.
Basically, it's true. Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess this is going to be the final like question that is more personal or dedicated to each one of you specifically, and that's going to be: is there a story as to how you got hooked on Monster Hunter? Maple, do you mind being the first to answer?
Yeah, sure, of course. So I think my family has always been like super into Capcom. Like we played the original Onimusha and like yeah, family. The entire family was like a huge gamer.
Healthy envious I'm feeling right now, but
yeah, but yeah, we played a lot of like Resident Evil, Onimusha back in the day, and I think my brother was playing Freedom Unite on the PSP, and I was just watching his gameplay, and I was just like, this looks really cool, but being, you know, the brother dynamic, he never really let me play it. But fast forward a few years, we get the Wii, and this game called Monster Hunter Tri was on like with it. So I'm like, okay, let me give it a try. No pun intended. But At that point, it was just
Wow.
kind of like
Okay.
that was definitely not intended, but but I got into try and I was just like just got really into like the environment and just seeing all these cool like creatures and just being absolutely ass kicked by the monsters. Like this was like back when I was in elementary, so I had no idea what I was doing, but I had just so much fun just running around, just mindlessly beating up stuff with my weapon and just, and after that I think I got really hooked onto Monster Hunter around GU and World. That's when I just was like, I knew what I was doing and it kind of clicked. And ever since, I've been religiously playing the game.
Perfect. Okay, and what about you, Shinkai? What is your story with Monster Hunter?
Okay. Well, when I was like 11, my mother worked in a renting shop, Blockbuster. I don't know if you know the name, but
I
she got
mean,
the.
you didn't have to expose our ages, but I guess that's fine.
I mean, it's fine. So,
All right.
so she got me the game rented for me on its release, and at first I hate the game a lot because I got walled by Abulfango. Like the very I think third quest, I got walled by him. So I actually returned the game. I didn't want to know anything about it,
Damn.
but late. Yeah, but a bit later, like a friend, like got the game, the full game. He was like, give it a second try. So this time I try it again. This time with the online mode because you have to have like the physical hardware in order to get the PS2 to be online. So I tried this time and it was like my first game online, like my real first game online. The community in there helped me. I got to understand the game and that made me love it. Like when you have people explaining things and be pacing with you, that's like a unique experience. And since then, I got obsessed with the game.
Yeah. The Monster Hunter community carrying the reputation of the franchise once again. Yeah, that's great. Okay, so with this, we can move on to the actual questions for today's podcast, which are going to be related to the state of the game, a bit of conversation around the changes, and what is it like to be a member of Team Lightside? What is the impression also of the or about the community right now, and especially since things had been a bit shaky here and there. So we have a lot to cover. First, I do want to know, have you guys enjoyed Wilds?
And you want to go first?
Okay. uh, yes, I have enjoyed Wilds, but at the same time, I expected a lot more from such title. Like, I don't wanna jump a lot, but I had high expectation for Wilds since they had already all the bases done by the previous generation. Wilds feels like a shaky development compared to War, without the issues War had to face. So it's 50-50.
Hmm. I think I have to kind of agree with Shin there in that I did have pretty big expectations for Wilds, like he said, because he had entire Generation 5 that the Monster Hunter team could kind of go off of and like learn from their games. And I do believe a lot of the things in Wilds does improve from World, like for example, the new investigation system I think is really, really good. But again, I think there was some problems in that there are steps forward, but also seems like there are steps backwards in certain aspects. But it is stable currently, I'd say, enough where people can enjoy the game, and I have been enjoying it a lot. I think I'm around HR 700. So I've been no lifing this game, and
Okay.
I have been enjoying the game a lot. But there is like that extra room where I'm just kind of going like, I feel like it could have been better if the team had a little more development time with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this is something that we have covered in the podcasts before, and it's the idea that Capcom definitely had something going with the end of the financial year.
Mhm.
So in a lot of aspects, when you put that into the conversation, it does feel like we're dealing with a bit of an unfinished game. Now, slowly but steadily, they are showing some things that are, making the game have a comeback, but we will get into that in due time. So this is one of my favorite questions to ask. Where do you find the fun in the game?
I guess I have multiple answers because there's so many. I can't really say one single answer because Monster Hunter is such like a in-depth series where there's multiple things that contribute to its like enjoyment. But I think the two main things is at least combat and fashion hunting. So at least like from my experience, like the best time I've had with Monster Hunter was just being in a call with a bunch of my friends around like 1 or 2 a.m., not caring about anything and just hunting with our brains turned off and just talking and we just
I
cue
can
up
relate.
loud music. Yeah, we just cue up loud music and just scream at the monster and just hunt and just go on for hours just having a good time. And I think just from that, yeah, like that's enjoyable. But another really important thing is like just how in depth the combat system is. Like you have 14 weapons that barely any like most people stick with 1 or 2 weapons and they stick with it for their entire playthrough. And I think that's incredible. Just having so much like different variety in the weapon system, being able to learn different like matchups for certain monsters and just being able to like craft and theory craft and stuff like that. I think that repetition is just really core to the Monster Hunter identity. And another thing that I do really enjoy is just fashion hunting because at the end of the day, if I'm not looking amazing while I'm hunting a TLS, I lose some aura points.
Yeah, and we all know that Wild specifically has been all about aura farming. So
Absolutely.
yeah. What about you, Shinkrei? Where do you find the fun in the game?
I think the more time I spend in the series, I transition from like the things I enjoy the most. Like at first, I will say like both the combat and the fashion hunting. But the more time I spend in the series, the more I care in the part of theory crafting. Because in the end, because I'm mostly a content creator about that, you like get in that direction, you started to get interested in all the theory crafting that goes behind it said or how did the skill works and everything. So I think for me the core experience for fun in the game is both the combat and theory crafting currently. I still love fashion hunting, but it got like a bit to the side.
Yeah, basically you have changed your priorities. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fine. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay. So when it comes to the play or game modes, what game mode do you prefer, solo or multiplayer?
In my case, I prefer multiplayer. But at the same time, the game is slowly moving away from what really got me hooked into the multiplayer thing and is transitioning into other kind of multiplayer, which I like because things change. But maybe now I'm a bit more into the solo play compared to like 7 years ago.
Interesting. Can you go a little bit into what exactly changed from the multiplayer that made you go more into solo?
Oof. Well, I mean the whole core of the multiplayer like changed. The scaling changed, how you got to people changed because now you have the SOC. I don't know how to spell the system where you get automatic marking with people.
Oh, like
Like
matchmaking.
yeah, sorry. Like before,
Perfect.
you had to make a room, and you have like a very slow approach into how you get with the people in the quest. Like you have time to speak, to explain things, to chat, to a lot of things. You had to make specifically a room to do everything.
Oh,
Now
wait.
it's like now it's like a more automatically approach. Sorry, what
No,
what did you
yes,
say?
I'm kind of wondering. Sorry to interrupt you. Like, maybe there was like a social aspect of the multiplayer that you
Yeah,
think that maybe was gone,
yeah,
or is it
I
gone
think so.
now?
Like
Yeah, it could be.
at least like with random people, which was a thing I love a lot because uh, it was something. It was what make me go into the game. You know, as I told you before, it was what make me love the series. It was random people that
Right.
just helped me to understand the game. So I also have been doing that from the entire old generations to other people. I help newcomers. I just have like social times. But when I went into like the modern generation, like everything changed. Like people wouldn't chat a lot, or would simply like go into the hunt the monster and go away. Because if you use the auto matchmaking, you don't get to have like after the hunt they disappear. You don't get
Yeah.
to still keep. Yeah, so I have to like to change my mind, and that's why I joined team Lifeside, because you like to have the same or a similar social experience. You need to like join a community, in my opinion,
Oh, for
or
sure.
a,
Yeah.
yeah, which was something you didn't need back then. You could do it, of course, but it wasn't needed to have a like a social experience.
Hmm.
So while I still like the social aspect of Monster Hunter right now, the multiplayer experience, it has changed. So maybe I gravitate a bit more into the solo time. I spend more time playing solo than with players.
Yeah,
Right.
I think like even yeah, just agreeing with Shin here. I do feel like I have like noticed like that shift even like in between from like Generation 5 to Wilds. I used to do a lot of lobby hoppings during like Sunbreak and Iceborne, just joining random open lobbies and just talking with people and just going on hunts with them. I barely am able to do that with Wilds for some reason. Like, regardless of what lobby I join, it just feels like people are just kind of doing their own thing and none are really trying to, uh, like meet up and just kind of like hang out and just have that social part. They're just there to hunt, just
Yeah.
leave and stuff like that. So it does, I kind of do see what Shinkai means by that.
Well, I think that this is something that has been affecting. Well, because if you ask me, I don't think of Monster Hunter as a very social game, and the perspective that Shinkai is presenting here is
So you said
actually,
you don't think it's a social game?
I don't think it's a very social
Mm.
game. But this is because I started in World, and maybe in World the social aspect was already starting to kind of fade away a little bit. But there's also, I think, Monster Hunter not being like a massive multiplayer game like MMOs are, the social aspect can sometimes be overlooked a little bit, right? And what I've seen, for example, from MMOs is that they were heavily affected by the surge of social media. I think that people now
Yeah,
completely separate the spaces in which they engage in being social and these spaces where they just want to maybe engage in some recreational activity. And so
I
obviously
agree.
it's obviously super good and like really fun to have spaces in the game where you can be social, but nobody will think of Monster Hunter as a social experience even though it's there, because there are other places like online on the internet where you go to do that. Like, I feel like if social media affected a game that had a social component built into their design as MMOs, Monster Hunter is clearly going to suffer from this,
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay,
totally
but
agree.
you didn't answer this, Maple. Do you like to play solo or multiplayer now?
I'm mostly multiplayer as well, just, being casual hunting with friends, just, discussing and just having a conversation while just killing like Arkfeld or stuff like that.
Yeah.
But here and there, sometimes I will want to do solo hunts just if I want to, for example, like learn like a matchup or just, improve my like skills for a certain weapon. Yeah. So I think it's just kind of like a best of both worlds, depending on what I feel like at that day.
Yeah, I think that's a very good thing to do. I'm usually not very in general in games, I've never been into like, or I've never really found communities, but I eventually always start to wander to different spaces. And there's another Monster Hunter Discord going around, and I sometimes join that Discord to play with random people, and it's like a very fun experience, especially when you find people that have really, really different experience compared to yours. When it comes to the game, you really start to see just how different it can be for like from person to person.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's part of like the experience that makes Monster Hunter so interesting. It's just you meet so many different people just being able to hunt, but everyone at the end of the day are there to do the same thing, have fun with Monster Hunter. But it's just you meet so many cool people from it.
Yeah.
Speaking of experience, do you think that difficulty is a defining aspect of the Monster Hunter experience?
Yes. Sometimes it feels a bit confusing for me, like how a lot of people think it's not. I think struggling was always part and core of the experience in the series. That's it.
Okay, yeah.
I want to go with like a slightly different answer. I don't want to say that difficulty is a defining aspect of the franchise. I want to say that it's more of an expectation that the community tends to like kind of like tie it with Monster Hunter. Basically, like when people say Monster Hunter, they often associate it with being this really difficult game where hunts take like 20 to 30 minutes and kind of like that. Like the same way like someone would say a Souls series is difficult. But I wouldn't say difficulty is like an aspect of it because again, difficulty is something that is subjective to everyone, but it's kind of become like a community expectation where it's like at the end of the day, you do want some challenge when you're playing Monster Hunter. You don't want to go into a hunt, just basically beat up the monster to a pulp, like for like 2 minutes and be done with it. Like you do expect some, you know, error, and like you basically expect to get your ass kicked here and there.
Yeah, a little bit of friction
But
here and there, maybe.
yeah, a little bit of friction, yeah, basically. But I don't think it's to the point where Monster Hunter as a franchise should be identified as something that's difficult.
I think it's a bit of a hot take, but I actually like it. I tend to agree with it, but you know, it's not easy to kind of talk about difficulty and how it could be maybe not the defining aspect of Monster Hunter. I think that's a difficult idea to present. But anyway, in contrast, this is why I want to know, in your own words, how would you describe the identity of the game? If it's not defined by difficulty, or if there are other things that are more important, what exactly is the identity of Monster Hunter?
I think I mentioned this earlier when I think in
Yeah, a
one
little
of the
bit.
questions, but yeah, but I think it's the concept of repetition because at the end of the day, Monster Hunter is like a kind of like a cyclic game where its core gameplay requires you to like kind of do the same things over and over again. Like, for example, like you want to get this one item from Rathalos, but Desire Sensor is fucking you over, or like you're trying to get like a personal best in like a hunt, or like you're trying to get better gear to kill more monsters to get even better gear. The whole concept of Monster Hunter is just doing the same thing over and over again. And that's not to say that's a bad thing, because if done well, it's something that can basically just hook you into that cycle and just keep you playing for hours and hours again. So even
True.
though like this, yeah, so this is kind of like the thing I have with the Monster Hunter series, that even though like you compare from Monster Hunter, like the first Monster Hunter to like Monster Hunter Wilds, yes, there has been many new like additions and changes to the games, like focused on like all this new stuff, but the core gameplay has basically been the same. Like you could look at gameplay from Monster Hunter 1 and you can look at monster gameplay from Monster Hunter Wilds, and both games someone could look and say, "Yup, that's Monster Hunter." While there are other games like Call of Duty, you compare that to like World at War to like the newest Call of Duty with all these like flashy skins, you wouldn't be surprised if someone sees that and goes like, "Is this the same game?"
Yeah, you got a very good point there. Yeah. What about you, Shinkrei?
Oh, it's a hard question. I
I
think
think it is. Yeah.
I think the direction of said identity has shifted in order to appeal to more people, which is not, and it doesn't have to be bad. But the identity of Monster Hunter, I feel like it's a game that makes you feel like you are a small player, a small hunter, fighting against the whole nature, like needing to learn both the monster, what surrounds you, what tools you have, and your own weapon. Depending on the game you play, that like the weight on that things I mentioned has shifted a bit on other sides, you know. But I think that will be the identity of the game.
Hmm.
So like there's maybe because you mentioned you start as a very small hunter. So is there any maybe like gradual progression that is in there as you? It's like there's like a journey that you can take in the Monster
Yeah.
Hunter experience.
Of
Right.
course, it goes in all ways, like both in the game itself, like the progression of the game itself, and yourself as a player. You know, outside the game, you
Yeah.
also start to like progress and understand a lot of the core things of the game. I think that's like the identity of the game, no? Getting to understand all that surrounds you and how smart you are, but you start to get to face stronger things.
Well, I think that this would be like the experience that everybody has the first time that they play Monster Hunter. They take this journey that seems so well deep in the end. There's so many things that you can explore about the game. There's so many things that you can discover, and so it's like this amazing, wonderful journey of discovery that the first time that you take it, and this is why I've heard many times that people would pay copious amount of money to experience Monster Hunter for the first time again, right?
That's true. Yep.
And I think it has to do with that. So I don't know. Maybe we can talk about this later. But I do think that some people want to have that magic again, that discovery, that wonder. And yeah, it's different once you have played for the first time. All right. Besides the combat, what are other aspects or elements of the game that you like?
I would say like
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go
Okay.
ahead. Yep.
I think the other elements that I like about Monster Hunter will be like the visual design of the monsters and how they behave. And of course, all the progression of the equipment together with the skill system. I think those are things that made me stick to the game besides like the core things I mentioned before.
No, I definitely agree with Shin, but I think like a really big thing for me personally, like I think I mentioned that I like music when it comes to like games. I think Monster Hunter does such a good job at not only making good music, but being able to like create music that basically fits the identity of the monster. So like
Yes.
if you listen to I'm like the number one like Nargacuga fan, and I will I will basically like glaze it anytime. But you look at like you listen to the music of Nargacuga, like for example the Iceborne rendition, it perfectly captures that identity and like the behavior of the monster, of how it's like this monster like quick cat thing that hops around and basically is ninja like, and you can hear that in the music. Or you listen to Valstrax, how it's just this soaring jet engine that's just going across like at like Mach 10 speed. It's just Capcom does such an insane job at being able to make music that just thematically fits with the monster just perfectly. And I think that just adds so much to the experience.
Yeah, I really like this take because like it's one of my dreams to go to like a Monster Hunter concert, like an official
I
Capcom
would
concert or
love to
something.
as well.
Yeah. Like it would be incredible. I would pay so much money for that. Anyway, yeah, perfect. So, do you have any feelings about the story this time around from the Monster Hunter Wilds?
Okay. So Shin knows where this is going, but we have a bit of a confession to make. When when Wilds first came out, me and Shin were basically trying to speed run through base game so that we could get to end game and basically make content.
Yeah,
So
it's the content creator curse. Okay, all right.
Yeah, so we basically skipped through most of the story, but this is, I think it was around when the Guardian monsters were first revealed. I think when Guardian Rathalos was first revealed. Yeah. Yeah. And we were just like, beforehand, we were like skipping all dialogue. We were skipping all the cutscenes. We're just like, wait, why is there like a white Rathalos? And I'm like, we probably have zero context to this, but I'm kind of curious. So from there, it was just kind of like, okay, let's maybe settle down and watch the cutscenes and kind of get some context to it. And from there, we were like hooked onto the story. We're like, what? The construct, the Wilk, like all these concepts and stuff like that. And I think even with like the limited information we had, and basically from what I read from summaries and stuff like that, I think the story of Wilds is like an extremely good step forward for Monster Hunter. Because let's be honest, like Monster Hunter hasn't really been known for his story. Like I hear people like, I agree that For You has like a really good story and all that stuff, but even then, like For You compared to like other games, it's not exactly at the top. But I think with Wilds, even like with Wilds, I don't think it's a perfect story, but for Monster Hunter standards, it is the best in the franchise.
Yeah. Before I agree with you, what do you think about this, Shin?
Yeah, I agree with Maple in the part that is the best story overall in the franchise. Yet, I want to add that I like it a lot. Like we had to change our plans because how engaged we were in the story at that point, But I still can't shake like a feeling. It's way too over the top. Like they drop like a lot of heavy lore and like unique things. I fear like this is some like cheap soak value that won't be followed in future games because how hard it would be. We are talking about
That
things
is
of the
true. I am.
Yeah.
That is true. Yeah, how do you like top like something like the equivalent of like an equal dragon weapon in the next game?
And it's also how weird it will be like either bringing up in the next game or don't bring it up at all. Like both things are equally hard. Like I think they move into a very, very, very hard spot because
I can see that, but I also think that the reason why the Monster Hunter story is sometimes very ambiguous is because they can change things without risk. So we might have a situation where, like, yeah, it's true. Like, I'll give you an example. World of Warcraft, it doesn't matter if you haven't played it. The thing is that the story of that game has been developing for like over 15 years or more. At some point, the developers were throwing everything in like on the table, right? All the old grudges and the old story arcs and the old like enemies that were actually like the real big enemies of the universe, of the World of Warcraft universe, they all started to appear. And well, for the people that know, this was around the Legion expansion. And the thing is, the story was able to move on anyway. But this is exactly the problem that was presented then, as you mentioned, Shinra, is that everything was so over the top and good and high quality that everything after really didn't manage to live up to it. But I think Monster Hunter doesn't have to bear that cross because they simply, they can simply move to another village, and another village means just another story, right? Nothing related to the previous title. They don't have that kind of like those chains. At least that's how I see it.
it depends on how they go into the expansion. I think. I think that
True.
Absolutely.
the line where I can shift my opinion will be the expansion, because at the end, Monster Hunter is a game that reuses a lot of the monsters in previous games, and sometimes some people don't care, but a lot of people care about the logic behind that, why fatalists appear here, where is Artian come from, so why this is
Yeah,
here.
that's
uh,
true.
and I think depending on the direction the expansion follows, it could be an issue in the future to bring back monsters or part of the story, because in the end
Mm,
you have to connect certain things, like the
yeah.
whole drama that went with Fatalist Redcom.
Yeah.
that
All right.
that was back then it was a big drama in the community, like for the people that care, of course. So now we have like we say like the social, the whole things with the Wewerians, the constructs, like I think it's a very delicate part of the series right now. It depends on how it goes into the expansion.
Yeah. That's a good point. All right. Well, anything else to mention, Maple?
Um, I think I have a little add-on to Monster Hunter Story, I guess. I think another thing that I really like about like how Monster Hunter and even with Wilds does storytelling is that while we have like a main like story that the developers that kind of like provide for us, there's also kind of like extra stuff that isn't implicitly like, told, but you can kind of figure out just from looking at it. Like even with Zoshia, I remember me and Shin during our first like time experiencing it, when he turned, all black and he started doing some of the Fatalis moves, I was just going like, hold up, this doesn't seem right. This seems really familiar. And
No,
I
no,
think
no.
Right.
Sorry, Maple. Sorry. You're lying. He was screaming.
I was screaming. Yeah, you know what? I
I
was
was.
screaming. I was screaming. I was screaming. Yeah, but I think Monster Hunter does such a good job in doing stuff like this, where like they add in a bunch of things, where it's just kind of like if you know, that kind of moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that feeling of Monster Hunter. In fact, if you look hard enough, you can find it in very small or sometimes unseemingly important parts.
Hmm.
Such as like maybe an example could be the Nersila's skin, right?
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
know, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
you know. And so
Mhm,
that aspect I enjoy a lot as well.
mhm.
Nice. Okay. Well, impressions about arced tempered Rey Dau.
Ooh, this is a quite a shaky topic right now because there was a whole entire discourse about this, but
There
I
is
think
really.
yeah, no, people
Yeah.
were going like crazy about like the difficulty of AT Radar. Like some people saying it's too easy, some people saying it's too
Ah, yeah,
hard,
yeah.
and
Okay, yeah.
yeah, basically. But personally, I think it's a fair challenge. Like if you fight him with like without stun res or your palico, it creates some like really panicky, chaotic moments. Like especially like hunting with friends. Like I think during the first day of AT Raid out, like all of us tried doing a run with like no stun res, barely any defense, and just just kind of like just suffering. And we were just having a blast just screaming at each other being like stop being stunned, stop dying and stuff like that. But I think objectively AT Rey Dao is a step forward in terms of like comparing to what we got for base world with their first
Yeah.
like arch tempered, but I still think it would have been better if we don't have a or like arch tempered, but like save that slot for like an extra monster. But I'm happy with what we have, and I think AT Raydao is like a really good step forward. So I'm excited for other ATs as well.
Nice. Okay. And Yushin?
All right. To give a bit of context, I'm currently finishing a video of all the difference of AT readout compared to the normal version. I think there's a lot of details that You cannot summarize with a simple, it's faster. Now, he does have like clever chains on the fight. Yet, having said that, I think that is mostly ruined with one single change they made, which is the delayed explosions. That's my opinion, of course. The explosions in general can be interesting at certain points. An example I will use is Ryzen Sagaru and its hazard version. I think that they did a clever twist on the explosions. They were like an extension of the attack. But with Rey Dau, I just can't enjoy them. So my impression of that, it was like it's closer to be annoying than interesting. Like the explosions in Rey Dau are made with a clear objective in mind, in my opinion, which is negating a lot of what the game teaches you. Some people might think, oh, that's cool because you need to adapt to it. But I just think it's a cheap way to make things artificially hard. Like most of the difficulty from Rey Dau was the explosions, honestly. The worst part is how so far they only have added this monster into their nest. So, and I don't think honestly that the nest is really well implemented with the Rey Dau version, because it makes the fight like very, very obnoxious for me. When Rey Dau is out of the nest, like I feel like I can enjoy a bit more the fight. But when it's in the nest, it's like a clusterfuck of explosions flashing everywhere. The terrain is like the colors itself are not clear for me. You overlap a lot in between the model of the monster and the explosions that are happening around. So I think like overall, I will say like 90% of Rey Dau, I like it. I think it's, as Maple said, better than what we have in base war. The idea is it has a lot of change, really. But the explosions, man, I think they really ruined the entire fight for me, to the point that I don't feel like keep running it. I just want to get it done. That's my impression.
Well, that's okay. For me, Rey Dau has been one of the most fun I've had in the game, you know? But I think that it's also, for example, because this is something that can happen and there's nothing you can do about it. This is objective. Like, a lot of people like Primordial Malzeno.
Yeah.
A lot of people like him. They say that it's like the best fight in the game. It's like brilliant. It teaches you how to kind of like just like squeeze as much damage as you can in between the like flurry of attacks that that monster can put out. And I hate Primordial Malzeno, you know? It's just... And I have my reasons for hating him, but I can understand that other people really, really enjoy that fight. So it's just... I feel like sometimes you will have fights that you just do not click with, and I even if you don't like them, you will find people that love them, right? So there's an aspect of that kind of becomes a little blurry in between the subjectiveness of things. But I can really see where you're coming from, Shin. Definitely. Go ahead.
I think the weapon that you play against, like I guess this is for like any monster, but certain weapons are gonna have like a more challenging time against a specific monster. Because Shin, of course, is a lance main. I can understand why he's so unhappy with the blast, because he's basically forced to guard his Rey Dau's regular attacks and then immediately guard again for the after blasts. So I think like there's just always just gonna be that difference between like certain weapons, because I can't even like imagine like trying to like fight Rey Dau against Hammer. Like that sounds like a horrible experience.
And yet there's somebody who did like a 3-minute hunt with it. You know?
Yeah. But I also do agree with Shin in that personally I really don't like the arena, like Rey Dau's nest, because it's so visually like cluttered. Like I've had friends that tell me they can't do Rey Dau because their eyes hurt, and just from like looking at all the particles and like the explosions going on. So I kind of do understand where they're coming from, because even like sometimes while I'm doing like AT Rey Dau hunts, I'm just like confused on what's going on, because at times there's like blue lightning going everywhere. The map is like super bright and there's like lightning effects going everywhere. And Rey Dau AT version is moving like left and right every other second. So I think like that like Nest is a bit visually cluttered, but I think the monster itself is fine.
I want to kind of like highlight this comment because I think that sometimes people do not consider visual clutter as a problem when it actually is, and it can be a very big problem. And I've experienced this in like mainly MMO fights. MMO fights usually have the boss in the middle of like a big arena. And sometimes the arena can be so like full of clutter and not only like, it's kind of like you said that all the particles are of the same shade of blue, right? So like you cannot quite differentiate or like see the difference between a regular lightning or maybe Rey Dau's lightning, right? That is a thing. It's a true thing. I was smiling as you said it though, because maybe the fact that I have like a poopy computer that runs wild in low quality has kind of it has kind of like saved me from that, because I see really small particles for everything. So I don't know, maybe I don't really experience that too much, but it's a very good argument that that should be considered in design. I will say that Rey Dau's Nest in terms of visual design is incredible, but
yes, visually
when that starts to overlap with the mechanical aspect, we start to have a problem sometimes. Perfect. Awesome. So, about the changes to the game, there has been a whole conversation about things like focus mode and wounds, so I wanted to know a little bit about your opinions on these type of mechanics. What are some changes that you welcome from Wilds, and what are some that you don't quite like?
Go ahead, Maple.
Sure. I think I like what they were trying to do with focus mode. Like personally, I've been really loving being able to actually like aim my attack and just kind of be able to like focus less on positioning and being able to just kind of like just I think casually focus mode is like a good thing, but I think they went a little too ham with the focus mode, especially with the focus strikes. I feel like it's very overtuned at the moment and make some parts of the hunt very trivialized. Because I feel like the whole Monster Hunter experience is that it's not supposed to be just a one-sided hunt. Like you're supposed to have moments of weakness where the monster is just basically beating up your ass, and you have moments where you topple the monster and you basically do the same thing to him. But it feels like with how many things they added in this game that can basically do incredible amounts of damage while stunning the monster has made it a little bit more shifted towards the hunters having the lead like during the hunts. Like let's think about like how much like environmental hazards there are. Like there's boulders, like even just looking at, I remember during like the Wilds beta, when people were trying to kill the regular Rey Dau as fast as possible, the best strategy was basically lead him on this scripted path that you could drop around 6 or 7 boulders on them, each doing percent of the max health of Rey Dau.
Yeah.
And each one of those would stun the monster for another couple seconds. And
some of them would also open wounds.
Yep. You have wounds that basically not only that, when you first hit the focus strike, you stagger the monster for a couple seconds. Like they have that, like weird animation where they just kind of look at you while you do your focus animation. And then certain wounds are able to just straight up knock the monster down, like special wounds when Rey Dau does his railgun, or like you get a wound on the ankle that always guarantees a stun. And stuff like tempered wounds, where tempered monsters are supposed to be this really strong monster that basically is incredibly difficult. But you also have tempered wounds that also guarantee a stun. So it just feels like while it just gives the hunters a lot more leeway than previous titles that I personally don't like. But I think like the
Yeah.
idea of a focus mode of being able to, like have different like ways to play by like aiming and stuff like that, I think that's a really cool change that they have added.
Right. Are you done thinking, Shinkray?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that because sometimes, well, no, sometimes we spend a lot of time, Maple and me, like talking about the things of Monster Hunter. So I think I agree with him in the whole thing with the focus mode. I think that I fear a bit about the focus mode because it's something I like it like in theory, but in the end I started to think like it erases like some of the most hardest thing for people that is joining Monster Hunter, which is the control of the camera, like the positioning. I think the focus mode like makes so it doesn't have to you don't have to learn that. You still have to learn other things, of course. Monster Hunter is not it's not only the camera and the position, but I think it's one of the biggest things. Focus mode like monopolize like the whole thing with it. um
Yeah.
what I mean is uh with time we start to get like better and better to the game. That's a given. Okay, that happened with war, and so you can see the consequences in Wilds, where a lot of people that played even war alone already have like less and less difficulties with Wilds. So my point is, with when we start to get mastering the whole focus mode, because even now we still need to master a lot of things. We have a lot of years to come, like the expansion and so on. And focus mode is gonna be like part of us. We use it like constantly. Some people even have the toggle option, so they are always hunting with the focus mode. I think it's too polarizing for the gameplay, and I'm a bit scared of what it can mean to the future of the series. Because, like, if you are new to the series, like in Wilds, you get used because it's like the core for you. It's like a core to the gameplay, the focus mode. You you can't, but I don't think you can remove the whole focus mode for the next Monster Hunter because it's gonna destroy the whole experience for the people. It's not like the claw, the clutch claw, or the wire boots. They are like side things you can use, but they are not core to the whole game. While the focus mode it is. So I'm a bit scared on how it can affect the future of the series and the balance of the game. That's something I don't like of the new changes. To to name a positive one, I like the small things I like that are not exactly like game changing, but for example, I love the small pictures of the equipment when you are when you are checking the helms, the equipment. I like that the preview of the item.
Oh yeah, I think
It's a
now
small thing
in the
in the
blacksmith.
tent.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Or in the okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah, when you are in the tent to swap to a piece, you can see a preview of the item, like the helmet or whatever. I like that change a lot.
Yeah.
It's the stupid things that I love.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you mentioned some things about focus mode, Maple,
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
didn't hear you say anything like that you actually liked.
I guess like I like a lot of the quality of life changes that was added to Monster Hunter Wilds. I know it was like a big controversy when a lot of these QLs were added, saying it kind of like made the game a little bit more trivialized and all that stuff. But I think with Wilds, with them trying to kind of make the game into a little bit of a more casual friendly experience, because yes, there are veterans to the series and all that stuff, but most of the new player base has come from like World or even starting with Wilds. So I think a lot of like the QLs that they added, like something that Shin mentioned earlier, or like just being able to do a lot of things on the spot, I think have been really cool. That I like a lot.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to those types of changes, I do want to hear a little bit about your opinion on things like pop-up camps, the secret recovery or secret riding in general, the field service. You mentioned something about field service before, Maple, but those type of things are not like directly related to the combat, and yet they are obviously new aspects of the game. So, what do you think about those?
Mhm. So this might get me stoned,
Nothing
but
new, but
I'm
okay.
yeah, of course. But I'm gonna be like completely honest and just say that like I've never really cared about like the preparation phase or like kind of like the like the prepping phase for Monster Hunter. Like you know how
Oh,
like some people this is a very controversial opinion. Like some people think that like being like like picking your armor and like like getting buffs and like being able to buff like before a hunt with wilds or like being able to do certain things before like you actually start a hunt and all these QL changes kind of go against the identity of Monster Hunter, which I do kind of see where they're coming from. That, before in the previous games, it used to be that Monster Hunter was something where you had to basically prepare a lot. Like if you're fighting this specific monster, that you bring this specific thing. If you're in a certain map, you have to bring certain things. But with Wilds, they're trying to. It seems like they're kind of like reducing a lot of that because even with like, I think with Ice Shard Cliffs, you don't really need to bring a hot drink anymore. You have all these heat mantle bugs that you can just drink out of. And so I get that those kind of things kind of like remove the whole need for preparation. But personally, I don't think that has always been a key aspect of Monster Hunter. Like at the end of the day, what I enjoy Monster Hunter is just being able to go into a hunt, beat up a monster, get hit a couple times, and have a hunt. So all these QL changes like pop-up camps, like sacred writing, and just like being able to know what my field survey rewards that kind of reduce that tediousness, I'm always gonna be open for it.
Yeah. And I can see now because I was thinking like, all right, he's gonna say that he doesn't like maybe the secret, and he's saying that he's gonna get stoned for it. But now I can see why.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but I mean, it's at least it's like a refreshing take. I feel like there is this maybe I wouldn't say like a fixation on preparation, but
Mhm.
and even then, if you want to have that experience, you can have it.
Of
I say
course,
it
yeah.
because, for example, I've been fighting Rey Dau like a madman, and I eventually ran out of might seeds and flash pots. And
Mhm.
so I had to, take up my farming gear and take a couple of laps around the forest, the Scarlet's Forest,
Yeah.
rebuilding my stock. And that was
Mhm.
preparation for me. And it's
Mhm.
also like something that I kind of enjoyed. Like I get to, take the game less seriously for a while.
Mm.
So I don't know. I feel like for the people that wanted, you can always do things to engage with it. I guess that
Yeah.
Capcom didn't want new players to feel like it was like a requisite or not requisite, like
Mhm.
a requirement to engage or to be able to have the experience.
Yeah.
Well, it's
No, I
obviously it's
definitely agree with that. Yeah.
and you, Shinkrei.
okay. I'm gonna go. Well, I'm gonna start. I think most of them are good ideas, but doesn't and develop it well enough into the game. Like for example, like the pop camps, as you say, they are neat, but you soon realize they are just like a side system that you
Mm.
really then don't care much and don't really fuse well into the gameplay. Like they are just there. You press a button like one time and forget about it. And I think that's like a shame. Like it's more of like an afterthought. This is now I'm gonna say like I'm gonna try to put the perspective from the directors themselves. Okay, my biggest issue with the whole quality of life change is how the directors argue about a vision of focus of the game, but instead they introduce a lot of things that goes against them. Like, why do you add like secret writing and therefore destroying all the immersion of exploring the maps that you are supposed to try to promote to the players? Like most play, if you ask someone like walk around the map in the forest, they probably don't even know how to traverse the map because the whole secret writing. So
Hmm.
Oh, you mean like they don't
why?
have like they don't know how to make routes. They don't know how to traverse like
Yeah,
navigate would be the word, to navigate.
yeah, I don't even honestly I don't even know if you ask me because the game doesn't promote you, but the directors supposedly in the interviews and so on, they say they want you to feel exploring the map, but
Mhm.
they introduce things that doesn't go well with what they say. Like you want the player to feel the weight of making their equipment and progression, but then you add investigation with the rarest material as a reward. Like I don't know. I think there's a line where the quality of life is instead a gameplay change. Like
Mm.
so to explain myself correctly, like I think it's a quality of life to be able to see the icons of the armors, like I said before, like the preview. That's a quality of change because you can go into the tent and quickly see what equipment is in your inventory. Oh, okay, this is the Chatacabra helmet. That's a quality of life. It doesn't really add to not know what the equipment is and having to see the name. But other things like the secret writing, yeah, you can consider it a quality of life, but I think it doesn't go that right into the quality of life, and instead it goes into the gameplay change, where it can change entirely the experience of the game.
I mean,
Mm.
That's my
I think
take on the
this,
whole theme.
yeah, the secret definitely changes the experience for sure. I think it's something that has been, I guess, it started happening with the Palamutes in Rice,
Mm, yeah.
and well, what it is true that because of the secret, you don't really get to memorize like all the different navigation routes or the different ways in which you can traverse the map. It's true because
Mhm.
now the secret can do it for you. You don't really have to learn from that. But I do believe that a lot of people complained about the ancient forest in World. And even the people that played the game from the release until the very end, until Fatalis, those people still didn't know how to navigate the ancient forest. So I think
I
that
I still get
my
lost sometimes.
yeah, and so my guess for that is Capcom wanted to create this immersive and like really kind of like um well specifically for the Scarlet Forest, right? Or because I don't think the desert is too difficult to traverse, but maybe
Yeah.
the ice cliff shards or the Scarlet Forest, those maps can be a little bit confusing sometimes, and they have they have a lot of verticality sometimes, so that can also add a layer of like getting a little bit lost with things. I think that they wanted to avoid players to have that experience, and maybe this is what happens when the community kind of like exaggerates an aspect of the game, because
Mhm.
everybody's going like, bro, like the ancient forest sucks, and I always get lost, and it's the worst to navigate. And maybe the devs go like, huh, okay, so players basically don't have like spatial recognition skills, so we gotta do something about it, you know. And I'm saying just maybe, I feel like
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
um so something else to put it out there, but I don't think we have an answer for that. In the end, it's the developers that have like their own little conversation with things like this. uh,
Mhm.
we only get we only get to see what it's in the game after it has been decided.
Yeah.
Well, so
Actually, I want to play a little bit of a devil's advocate for Shinkrai's point there.
oh yes.
I get like the whole argument that like being able to have your sacred just auto run to your locations does kind of like make the exploration a bit, streamlined. But again, it's kind of like the whole argument of you press the buttons, like if you don't want to auto
Ooh.
run, you can just do that. It's just, I feel like to say that just because they have a system that allows you to auto run, that saying that it kind of ruins or like isn't becoming a gameplay change, I feel personally is going a little out of the way, because again, you're not forced to auto run or like just be able to auto path. And there are cases where the auto path fucks up and you're better off manually controlling it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, yes, you have that ability to, just auto path if you would like to, but nothing's stopping you from just controlling it yourself. And if you want to really explore that environment that Capcom has created for you, just do it yourself. Just go around, explore the map, and have fun with it. Like I think the auto pathing is kind of like a good little thing that Capcom added. Like for example, like while I'm running to the monster, I like checking my phone to see if I have any notifications.
Okay.
Just stuff like that. Stuff like that. Like I personally am not the biggest like. I do like the environment of Wilds, but as someone who's like more combat oriented, I personally wouldn't really care about looking at the environment. Like I looked at it, it's cool. Like sometimes I'll go around like just exploring, but I don't want to be forced to look at it every time. Like if I don't want to, then I won't. So that's just kind of like my point of view.
The more we talk about it, the more I think that this is a matter of trying to avoid players getting frustrated with the navigation, because I remembered. Do you guys know Game Grumps?
Yes.
Okay, I remembered the series that Game Grumps did for Monster Hunter World, because they tried it, and it was a very short series, and one of the episodes was Aaron going around in circles in the ancient forest looking for the regular Jagrasses, not the not the great Jagras, the regular Jagrasses.
Yeah.
He spent 40 minutes running around looking for the Jagrasses, right? And and what's more incredible is that at that point you don't have the whole ancient forest unlocked yet, I think.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like this guy was lost for over 40 minutes, and when you look at that, you can say like, okay, I see why Capcom would add an auto navigation system, because some players will be like that. Some players do not have maybe spatial recognition is not their suit or their strongest feat, maybe, So now I don't want to get stuck in this topic, but I can see both points being true at the same time, All right. Well, I do want to ask you guys, is there anything anything specific that you miss from previous Monster Hunter generations?
Yeah, I would say I miss a lot from previous generations. I think we went from a slow and methodic gameplay to a more reactive one. It's not that I hate it, but I'm sad the only way to experience is to replay the older games. And they already lacked innovation in terms of monster and content. But I have to mention a thing that I miss a lot is how I already talked about it before, but it's the social aspect that was a lot more focused into the game itself, whereas now it's focused outside the game, as we talk about.
I see. Perfect. And you, Maple?
I think if we're talking about kind of gameplay gimmicks and stuff like that, I really miss the hunter arts and the switch skills from Sunbreak and GU. I think being able to customize your playstyle is such an amazing thing that Capcom implemented, and they should keep doing it. You compare two gameplays between between Sunbreak or even Iceborne of two longsword players. You look at the Iceborne gameplay, And those two longsword players are pretty much doing the same thing. It's the same combos, the same sequence, just the same like cycle. But with Sunbreak, it's not very uncommon. You see two of the same weapons just playing slightly or even like majorly having different playstyles, because you have with Rise and Sunbreak, you had the option to choose either you want to go with the special sheath or you can go with the sacred sheath. So even stuff like that, just being able to kind of like have some flexibility and customizability, I think would be amazing for Monster Hunter. And I think Sunbreak especially did such a really good job with being able to add switch skills and just having all this way to like basically, you know, make your own experience. There's
Yeah.
always gonna be like the meta, quote unquote, the best selection of switch skills. But I've seen so many people just do their own little switch skill build and have their own little playstyle. Like, and whenever I see like a fellow longsword player in like a Sunbreak hunt, and I see them doing like special sheath and doing a different combo, and I'm doing sacred, I'm like, that's cool. You know, it's the same weapon, but it's different.
Yeah, I actually like that. At least I like the concept behind that, because I think that for my personal taste, not Wilds, Sunbreak went a little bit too crazy with it. Like you could change like even the most minute details from your moveset, which
Yeah.
I think, you know, eventually I kind of like got used to it, but I do think that it can be a bit, you know, it adds a bit much of mental load that I'm not really like comfortable with. But yes, I agree completely that having this is what I would call like player expression. To me, is highly valuable.
Yeah.
In any type of game like this, right? Perfect. Okay, so what are your thoughts on Artian weapons and reinforcements?
Oh man.
Oh man, oh god.
Yeah, I know. I really don't like them. Like many reasons. One, I hate the designs of the weapons. Like I will I am not a fan of like kind of like the futuristic like looks of the Artian weapon, of like how it's like this like steampunk but like also parts that are moving. It's too like like I don't know. There's just too much going on for me. I'm a person that likes really simple weapons and stuff like that, like designs. So the designs already like make me want to use a different weapon. But I think also Artian was introduced to the game's life cycle a little too early. Like
Yeah.
having it already available from the base game made basically any other weapon, I remember, like just obsolete. Like I remember during like the first like couple few weeks, like before title updates with like Zoshia and all that stuff, almost every other weapon, like other than maybe like Gunlance or like some of the bow guns, the meta picks were just always all Artian. And because you had this weapon that allowed you to have triple 3 slots, which is insane. And all these regular weapons, while they do have some good stats, have basically the same jewel slot. It's always 3-2-1, except for I think Arkfeld, which is a 3-3-1. So it's just kind of like, yes, you have this whole game where its identity is about like being able to make different weapons and just being able to customize your own build, but you immediately shove this like really powerful system and basically tell them like if you want to have the best damages, then you're gonna have to use this system, and you kind of have to like grind and over again until you get the perfect reinforcements.
I have to ask you there because, you know, recently I made a video about Artian weapons, and a comment that I would see a lot is like it's not that big of a difference that you have to engage with it. So like, why even care if, you know, having the max DPS is not going to make your hunts all that different? How do you feel about that statement in general?
Well, I believe like people always want to be at their maximum state, because that's kind of like the whole point of Monster Hunter. You know, you're grinding yourself to be at the best you can by getting the perfect build and perfect weapons, and kind of like limiting that to a system that's basically RNG, and just forcing players to do that is just kind of like a bad taste in my opinion. Of course, like there are friends of mine that don't really care about meta, or like basically they just do what they want. They make the cool looking weapons. They don't care about the damages. If they like this one weapon is for its design, then they'll use that, which is a perfectly valid opinion. But for someone like me who is about, like maximizing what we can do so that we can get better times, having a system like that just being forced on us just for that extra couple damage is kind of like a bad thing. But I think if this interview was, or like podcast was done during the before title updates, I would have been a little bit more negative about it. But with title update 1, how Zoshia's weapons is actually like very comparable and like competitive against Artian weapons, I do think that Capcom is kind of trying to like steer away from making Artian the only viable, like, quote unquote best meta, which I do appreciate a lot. And I think if they keep up with that, I think I'll be happy with the Artian weapon. But release Artian, I was not a big fan of it.
And well, you mentioned something interesting there. I think that, I mean, you say that you like to have, you like to complete your builds, and I would say that that's true even for people that don't really follow the meta. Like if somebody simply likes something and they want to get it, they shouldn't have to jump through so many hoops to get it. That's how I feel about it. It's just the simple satisfaction that comes from completing something, right?
Absolutely.
It is completed. I have it. I worked for it and I got it. And so I don't know. I feel like sometimes people get caught between like in the argument, saying that because they are the meta weapons, you shouldn't, or maybe you don't even need them because you're not a speedrunner, when it's not about that even. It's just like personal satisfaction. Exactly. Self-satisfaction. But instead we are here, having blue balls, I guess.
Just constant reinforcement over and over and over.
Yeah.
And Yushin, what do you think?
Maple almost say everything, but I guess I think the whole system is not that bad. Could be better, but it works. And I think the same. The issue with the system is having their own release, therefore destroying the whole concept of the game so early. I think the system feels like it should have been released on title update 2, or at max at title update 1.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not much to say, honestly. I think it's mostly the same as any other game system. A lot of issues, but it's the way they kept the carrot for the players, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, I think there's something, maybe I'm wrong, but I think there's something that a lot of people is missing with the Artian weapons. It's not only about the DPS difference. Like, a lot of people argue that there's not much difference between the weapons of the monster and the Artian, but it's also about something that Maple mentioned, which is the slot decorations. The Artian weapons also allows you to customize a lot, like the skills you have, because the offensive skills, the weapons skills are like hard to get, because if you, for example, if you want a fire weapon, you have to go to monsters like Chematries, and they have like fixed skills that you cannot remove. Like, for example, Guard 2. But with the Artian weapons, you can customize it entirely. You can, for example, have 0 ward and instead having like a handicraft. You know what I mean, right? So it's not only about DPS, but how good they are to make your own customized set. Because again, the offensive skills or the weapon skills, whatever you want to name them, are really, really, really limited. So being able to customize it like fully is huge. Even for the casual players, it's huge.
That's a very good point.
It's maybe the only way you can get like 3 bigger skills slotted.
True. Especially because you see the weapon trees and you see some of the skills that are in some of these weapons, and you cannot make sense of them.
Yep.
Yeah, like, and the other thing is some weapons are very skill hungry. I would bring maybe like Charge Blade, for example. Charge Blade is always limited on release usually because it needs so many things that could potentially improve your gameplay that at the beginning Charge Blade tends to feel kind of sluggish, and your resources are also, it's kind of like you're fighting against your resources. And if you slot magazine or like, for example, you can put in like, well, it's not very used anymore, but you could put like focus, for example. Maybe you go with offensive guard. Maybe you go with, whatever it is that you want to play with. But the thing is, you have a lot of skills that are desirable for Charge Blade. And every other weapon can just play on their own. And you're here sitting, like, you're forced to play with Artian simply because you need so many other things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. True. Well, okay, well, it's a whole topic.
Yeah.
All right, well, we are going to move on now to things that are more related to the community manager aspect of your presence in the community. We might still touch on elements that have to do with the gameplay or with Monster Hunter as a whole, but I do want to maybe talk a little bit about your content creation journey, your community manager journey, or like what are you doing with the Team Lightside community. So first question would be, how has it been to manage a community for Monster Hunter?
Ooh, I have a lot to say, but I think in
Let's have the tea.
I think overall it's been a very positive experience. Like I still can't really grasp how much like the TLS blew up initially, because the existence of Team Lightside is kind of a meme if you can't really tell. Like it's supposed to be like, like a parody of Team Darkside, just being like, oh, if Team Darkside is good at video games, then oh, we must be the evil Team Darkside and we're bad at video games. And that was just
sorry, that's such a good premise.
Yeah, that was straight up our the reason that I made Team Lightside was that it was just kind of like a, like usually you have like groups that have like really cool origin stories, but I really don't have a good story. It's a dumb story. We were in a voice call just doing Monster Hunter like at 3 a.m. and we're like, you know what? Let's just make a Team Lightside.
I mean, that's a great story, to be honest.
And promote it as just, evil Team Darkside that's bad at video games. And I remember the first video that I made, it was just a compilation of like people carding. Like I just asked people for their clips of just carding in the funniest ways, and I just compiled that all together and just added like music on it. And I remember that blew up, like got like thousands of views and like thousands of likes and all that stuff. And I think that kind of like was like a really good timing and just insane luck for it to happen, and just being able to use that initial momentum to be able to create like a small community. And just it's just been really cool. Like of course there has been really frustrating times while dealing with a community of like Monster Hunters, because I'm not gonna say they're always the best at what they're doing. They break the rules often and gets really annoying at times, but that experience of being able to have like a space for everyone to just enjoy and just do dumb stuff together has been like one of the greatest decisions. I feel like that 3 a.m. just joke call has been one of the greatest things of last year, because I think TLS was 2024, and just from that it led me like just meeting all these amazing people like in the Monster Hunter community, like just Shincry I met from Team Lightside, and like other like really big names like Gaijin Hunter and like Oceanus. It would have been impossible if it was for like Team Lightside just happening.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. What is your side of the story, Shincry?
Okay, I'm gonna be honest because I joined late into the creation of the Team Life side. Like, I joined way later, so I don't have like the experience of starting everything, which I think is the most hard part. Like getting to organize the score, the people, the ideas. So I honestly don't do a lot of the heavy work that, for example, Maple had to do. And currently, it's mostly done by the mods, like watching everyone behaves on the chat, or Maple maintaining the server itself. So I don't have
Mm.
like that side of the thing, but I have been trying to contribute with activities, ideas, giving my best in giving my opinion on things. Sometimes I also have been moderating, but so far I have been enjoying a lot. And whenever I interact with people in the Discord, it has been a good experience that makes me remember why I love the Monster Hunter community a lot.
I was gonna say, like, if I feel like you guys are kind of like revitalizing the social aspect of the game by doing things like this. You know?
That's one of our goals, yeah. Just being able
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
connect the community
Nice.
together, just having fun, Just all here to have
Hmm.
fun.
Um, maybe with this you already answered the next question, but what is like? Do you have any preferences in the content that you like to make?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I said this during my introduction, but I preferably like enjoy just being like kind of like the organizer, being like doing stuff behind the scenes. I'm not like particularly like flashy and like enjoy doing flashy stuff like being like in videos or like being like an announcer or stuff like that. But I particularly enjoy just being able to create something and just seeing, like an idea come into fruition and just seeing all these amazing people just work together to, just celebrate this series. And I think that's just like a really cool thing to have.
Yeah, nice. And you, Shinkray, what's the type of content that you like making?
You mean, sorry, but I have a very light doubt. Like, in Thin Light side or in general?
Um, well, yeah, I guess because you do have your own YouTube channel, I guess this you can answer it as a more personal question. You know, like when you are trying to make content for your channel or for yourself, maybe for your community, if you have like a more specific community to your channel, what do you like to do?
Oh, yeah. As I said before, most of my content is accurate information about Monster Hunter, studying things, comparing other details between the games, and getting people to collaborate with me. I usually have like a lot of collaborations with people, with the speedrunners, with some personalities. So that's mostly my content. I simply like helping solving any doubt or generally simply helping people.
Yeah, okay. Nice. All right, well, you know how with Wilds there was this huge influx of new players into the franchise, but there seems to be quite a big disconnect between like new players and older players. Why do you think this
Mhm.
happens?
Hmm.
Do you want to go first
I'm
or?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
I think the game has changed. Even me myself miss the old generation, yes, but I also like the current generation. Yet, I think the more you play the modern games, the more you see the holes in some of the innovations. This obviously makes so the most extreme people have louder complaints. And even in the modern generation itself, it happens between them. For example, between war players and Wills players. I mean,
True.
so, yeah. So I think the biggest reason is the burnout. Like back then, in my opinion, there was a bigger width between the games, be it because their design or the space between a release, but you will spend a lot of time without any problem playing them. But
Mhm.
currently, times has changed. Like not only the game itself, but the market itself. And modern Monster Hunter makes you so you can find a lot of justifications on spending that much time compared to before. So I think psychologically, it makes a lot of people frustrated with the state of the game because they can't find the justification to spend the same time they spent before. Not only for the older generations where people will spend like thousands of hours, but also in the modern now. So I think the game went into a like speedy progression, speedy content. So you reach the end game, the content so fast that people cannot find the enjoyment they find before. Because some people got better at the game, they also progress a lot faster than before. So they find the game a lot shorter, and that also adds to the frustration of not being able to justify their game in Monster Hunter. As I said, it's also things of the social aspects and the market, right? Like before, you could spend you didn't have a lot of games compared to now, when you had the PSP or the 3DS. Now you have like a whole games releasing constantly. For example, how a lot of people, how can you justify to keep playing Monster Hunter when Expedition has released, of Skull Killer, I mean. uh, I think that's where people is coming from, why they are just exploding.
You're bringing
This
some
is
really interesting
Yeah.
points. I want to like expand on that, but go ahead.
Yeah. So I think it's a mix. I think Wilds is not the perfect Monster Hunter, but it's also good Monster Hunter game. So I think people is overblowing in that sense, and that's the disconnect between new and old players. Because old players feels like Wilds can be the worst or way, way, way too easier, while the new players can see those issues if there's any issue. That's my opinion on the whole thing.
Well, specifically on the part that you mentioned that players have this, because we talked about the side of developers have to somewhat guarantee that there's a certain amount of content that is present in the game for the players, right? And obviously because in the end we are paying $70 for this thing, we don't want to feel scammed. But there's also the other side of the conversation where you have to gauge the expectations that you have from the game, and also kind of ask yourself, why do you want to like lose your life to this thing? Like, why do you want to spend 1,000 hours guaranteed in this game? Why is that a thing? Why are people looking for that experience? What is going on with that? I feel like today no game should try to insist on taking your time. They should offer you an intrinsic experience, and you engage with it when you want to, right? And so what is happening there? Like, are players also having maybe, I would say, exaggerated expectations of what they want this game to give them? Maybe you can comment on this also, Maple, if you want.
Yes, it was a sudden drop, so I'm just kind of like trying to think about it as well. Yeah, I think I can kind of like relate it to my original answer that I was gonna have with like the whole thing, because I think because people are always gonna be biased, right? Like no matter what you do, you have your own biases that from your own experiences and all that. And I think the whole kind of like reason that, like especially with the old players and like the new players going on, is that a lot of the old players, because it is like, like if they played with an older game, since that is their first experience, that's probably going to be their basis for what a Monster Hunter experience should be. That doesn't necessarily mean that it should be the absolute definite experience, but because you started with an old gen game and you played that and that was your first game, those tens of like people are going to tend to think that putting 1,000 hours into Monster Hunter should be the standard. So I think that's why there's like such a big disconnect between the newer ones and like the older ones, especially relating to what Shin said, in that yes, the games have changed. It's no longer about, like grinding like thousands of hours for everything. And that's what Capcom is kind of pushing for. But since new players are going with the experience that, is everything's a little bit more like speedy, you have a lot of QOLs and stuff like that. Old players are gonna kind of like feel conflicted because that's not their expectations of what Monster Hunter should be.
Any thoughts on how can we possibly bridge this gap?
Oh, that's a difficult question.
Yeah. Maybe you can think about it a little bit and we... Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. I think the best thing, of course, this is like going to be difficult to do, but having the ability to just, have the full picture when you talk about something, because I've seen old gen players that refuse to play like new gen completely just because they don't like the new changes. I think just being able to be objective and just give every game a try and see and appreciate for what it is, and not be like, just because Wilds is my first game, everything is everything before it, and all these, really clunky changes are bad. I think people just having a little bit more open mind, just saying that you're gonna be biased, like your experience is gonna be tailored to your first experience of Monster Hunter. So just being able to appreciate that, and just maybe having, like the open mind to experience the other games for what it is and not what it is based on your expectations, might allow people to appreciate, like old gen and new gen together. Because realistically, a lot of new gen players aren't going to play old gen, and because of that, there's going to be a further gap between the new and old players, because old players are going to be consistently saying, oh, all these things should be the Monster Hunter experience, while all these new players just go like, what are these boomers talking about? So I think just being able to kind of like, because realistically there is nothing that we can actively do to fix this problem, because any kind of game, when it has such a long life cycle, is bound to have an issue with new and old players. But just in an individual level, just being able to be, aware that, your experiences is not absolute, just be able to be, I think should be able to help with it a little bit, if that makes sense.
It does. I think that was really good insight, especially on the part where you mentioned that Monster Hunter maybe shouldn't be seen as these homogeneous, like one-dimensional experience, but instead what we have here is different titles that can actually offer you different experiences, and you should see them for what they are. I think this is actually what the problem that I had when I went from Worlds to Rise. I didn't like that change because I wanted to engage with Rise the way that I had engaged with World and with Iceborne. And so I kind of I downplayed the utility of wire bugs, and I didn't use them that much at the beginning, which was extremely frustrating to do because I was basically shooting myself on the leg. And so and then I had to play Rise like at least like, I remember making a character again like 2 times. Like the first time I played, then I made another character, and then I made a third character. And on the third character, I actually got to the end game, fighting Anomaly and like recent, how do you call this? Special Investigation recent Shigaru Magala or whatever that is.
Yep.
Okay, so, and only then I could appreciate Rise Sunbreak for what it was, right? But I had to fight so much with my expectations that it was not easy to do. So maybe it's something that we have to do with like Monster Hunter in general. It's something that we mentioned with the Meatman episode, that this is what Capcom does with the game. They change things.
Yeah.
And that is the actual expectation that you should have, not that something is gonna be repeated like word for word. In your case, Shinkai, do you have any ideas of how can we bridge the gap between like older players and newer players?
It's hard to like.
It is really hard. That threw me off the bus.
There was like an idea I have like not long ago that might help alleviate a bit of the issue. I'm not sure how they can implement it, but I think the game at this point they have where they break most of the old things they have in the other games. I think the game will benefit from like a difficulty selection. Like you can select between the your experienced player and newcomer and make the monsters like, yeah, it's not the biggest solution, but make the things broader. Like the HP.
Arguably, we already have that with the threat level system. Arguably.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but not in progression, which is one of the most engaging parts of Monster Hunter. Like when you are progressing through the history, most people complains about the difficulty of the history. When you are going from low rank, high rank, most people complains on how the monsters selected for history, you don't even get to see their movesets because they die so fast, they are stunned, you do so much damage, whatever, a lot of things. And I think that a lot of the complaints I say that before is because people feel like they cannot enjoy the game and they don't get to spend so much in the game before reaching the end game. So I think it's not the final solution, but I think the bridge will be fixed in a better way if you can make so people can select like a bigger obstacles through their progression in the game.
I mean, I
So
think
they don't.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
No, I'm just going to say, sorry to interrupt you. That would kind of appeal to the different levels of players, but it doesn't quite connect players. That's what I'm going for. How do you make it so new players can sort of understand what old players like and appreciate, and how do old players how can they be able to put themselves in the shoes of a new player? That's kind of what I'm asking.
Okay. But I honestly don't think there's a solution for that. It's
Oh
like this.
no!
Yeah.
No. I'm be honest.
No, it's okay.
I guess you have played World of Warcraft, right?
Are you're gonna bring the classic versus retail?
Of course, yeah.
Okay.
It's that, it's honestly it's honestly the same thing. If you look at the classic WoW and the modern WoW, they are different things. They have different approach. The speed of the progression is completely different. The social aspect is completely different. Stuff like that. It doesn't have anything to do. So it's why I don't really like the classic WoW experience, which is a bit weird since I like the classic Monster Hunter experience, but I don't really like. I respect them, so I don't think I can agree with what they like about the classic WoW, but I see where their point coming from, and I don't think there's a solution. There's no way that I can agree to a World of Warcraft classic design. I've been playing
yeah.
since vanilla, but I still think that like retail is the current best iteration of WoW, even with its obvious fouls of course. It's the same for Monster Hunters, but I'm on the classic side. I like more the old generations. I don't think there's a solution for that. You either go back to what Monster Hunter was before or not. So I don't think I can agree. Like I can respect, but I don't think I can agree with a lot of the new players thinking about Monster Hunter. I don't think there's a solution. I think that the solution is simply respecting each other and that's it. But I don't think that you can shorten the bridge because the game is not the same. It's not gonna be the same. The mentality of playing the games is not gonna be the same. So what's done is done.
Yep.
Maybe
I guess so. Yeah.
maybe I'm too negative, but I don't think there's a solution for that.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with like everything you could try like to kind of lessen the gap, but at the end of the day, it's just a result of having a series, like I said, be like going on for like what 20 years now, like 20 plus years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bound to happen, like there's nothing we can do about it. Just be open-minded and just be respectful when knowing that your Monster Hunter experience isn't going to be the same for someone else.
Yeah.
Okay, so well, I guess it's a bit of a shame because I feel like one of the things that you're doing is like basically it could be part of the solution, creating community, creating interactions between players, that in the end, when the community is big enough, you're going to have players with different skill levels and different stories with how they started in the Monster Hunter journey.
Absolutely.
So, but thinking of it in a more maybe macro level, right? It's probably not an easy answer. Anyway, how would you describe the experience of the average player? How would you describe the experience that the average player is looking for in Monster Hunter?
I think the average player, I guess they just want to sit, hunt some monsters, reach the credits, go to another game. I think that's
You think like
gonna be
they play the story and they bail? Like,
yeah, that's the average player. I think. I don't think they stick with the game.
wait.
That
We have
much.
confirmation from Maple. Is that what's going on?
Well, not exactly, because I think the whole, like most people like tie Monster Hunter, like the whole. I think we had the discussion earlier about how we have the community thinking Monster Hunter and difficulty is kind of like the together, right? I think the average experience is kind of like, because realistically, when anyone is playing a game, they don't want to be given the free win. Like, I don't think anyone and everyone wants some feeling of satisfaction that they basically earned it. They want to feel like they want to have like an I don't want to sound mean, but they want like an ego boost, of them being like, yo, maybe I'm good at this game, because that's realistically why you play video games. You do it because you want to think you're good at what you're doing. So when you have like a game like Monster Hunter, like where it's kind of similar to the Soul series, where like it's like supposed to be this really quote unquote difficult game, I think people want to have the experience that they're basically they acknowledge that it's a difficult game, but they also want to have the satisfaction of having a win, So it makes them feel like, oh, this game is hard, but I can beat it. Therefore, I'm happy. I think that's a key thing when it comes to like games like Monster Hunter, because if you have a game that's incredibly difficult, that's literally like only a fraction, like a small percent of the player base can be, that's not really a fun game. Even Souls games, like known for its difficulty, it's not difficult to the point where literally 99% of the player base can't beat it. It's difficult enough that when someone beats it, they have the satisfaction of beating it and being like, oh, I've gotten better at this game. Oh, I'm good at this game now. That self-realization is what pushes people to play these games. So same thing with Monster Hunter. What people really want, I think personally, is to have an experience that's challenging enough so that it's not a cakewalk, but also easy enough so that they can actually beat the game and think, yeah, that was a challenging game, but I still beat it because I'm good at this game.
Well, I mean, I don't want to go into the whole difficulty discussion again, mostly because I will just say this. I think a lot of people talk about difficulty because they can beat the game. And then you look into the details, and it took you like 30 minutes to defeat Arctempted Rey Dau. Can you really say that was easy? Because you beat it? Like, I think those are different things. But again, I don't want to get into it again because like we have already gone around this thing. I do want to know, like, would you say that the average player is actually looking for that, or do you think that we have more of a situation where people are mostly, some people call them tourists. They just want to like get maybe finish the story, get a couple of hunts in, get a good set of armor, and then they bail. What do you think is the expectation of the average player in a way? Is it the same, like having this this challenge and feeling that you can beat it?
I do believe so still, because a lot of because of course, if you have like Monster Hunter fans, like quote unquote, if we're looking at the perspective of average players for someone who's played Monster Hunter for a while, of course they're going to be doing everything, doing all the tempered hunts and all that stuff. But a lot of my friends that I've recently got into Monster Hunter, which is like around in the 20s to 30s, that are like my IRL friends that haven't really played Monster Hunter, and they're quote unquote kind of like just average gamers, they don't necessarily go for that extra push of just doing everything you can do. They want that, level of challenge where they can beat the game and be satisfied and just move on with it, like Shin said.
Hmm. Yeah, well, Shin, in your case, like, do you have any maybe perception of what is the average player expectation? Have you talked to people that have sometimes told you, like, no, this is what I've tried to do with the game, like, this is what I'm into when I play Monster Hunter?
Yeah, me myself, like I don't hold the truth to everything, but I spend a lot of time in a very, 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 very high amount of discords. So so I really read like a lot of people, and I'm talking about Monster Hunter discourse themselves, okay? But I see like a lot of people don't really engage that much with Monster Hunter. Like they do like the game, but
Mhm.
they don't play that much. They hop really fast to other games. Like the chats themselves are often filled with chats about other games, not about Monster Hunter. Even the Monster Hunter chat is filled with other games most of the time. So yeah, I think that the average players don't really want to think that much about the game. They don't want also to have like suffer experience, because for them the Monster Hunter games are really difficult, even the Wilds one. Even a lot of people that have been playing for years, as you say, they take a lot of time hunting monsters, like a lot of time. Sometimes I'm even surprised. I don't want to sound elitist, but sometimes I'm even surprised myself how much time they can take to kill a Lalabarina, being played like 7 years to the game, but
Mhm.
each one is their own, So
Yeah.
I don't think they just want to turn off their brains, play a bit of Monster Hunter, finish the things they have to do for the core thing of the game, and that's it. And maybe return for the event, for a new title update, but that's it. That's at least
Hmm.
my take from all
Mhm.
I have been reading.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason why I tend to ask in these podcasts, like, do you think that difficulty is important? Do you think that it is like defining aspect of the game? It's because
Mhm.
I feel like it's it has become this overused argument that difficulty can define the quality of your experience in a game, and
Mm,
I tend to I feel like people are losing sight of what a video game is. It's there to entertain you, right?
absolutely.
Difficulty
Yeah.
is one aspect of how you can be entertained, but it's not
Hmm.
like that for everybody. And I don't think Monster Hunter is solely like trying to hyper focus on difficulty either. There's many
Hmm.
other things that they are trying to do to appeal to, well, their fans and also to newer players. And maybe here and there, maybe they have lost like their edge to appeal to older players. Maybe that could happen. Sure.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like there's other aspects of the game that are not always appreciated, and they should be part of the conversation as well.
Hmm.
But that's the thing. Uh, when you hear some people complaining about the difficulty in Monster Hunter, it's because that people cares about the difficulty in Monster Hunter. You're not gonna hear like someone that doesn't care about the difficulty talking about how easy is the game, because they don't really care. So it's obvious that you're gonna see a lot of people be loud about difficulty because they have that experience as the core of the game. It makes sense to see them complain in that sense.
I would say,
And
oh yes, go ahead.
And it is because maybe they like the Monster Hunter game because, like myself, they like the struggle of evolving through the game, which maybe they feel like the latest game doesn't offer to them. Why? Because the game maybe is easier, or because they got better at the game. It doesn't matter, but that's the reason that maybe you hear that people complaining, because they do care a lot about that. It's like it's a matter of preference at the end.
No, I get that, and I think that, for example, well, I guess my main gripe with this whole topic is how do we identify the percentage of people that are actually really invested in Monster Hunter because of its difficulty, and what is the percentage of people that just want to hang out and like do things like you guys do, like sometimes the events that you do, and just want to be on Discord and play. We cannot know for sure, but I would say that this is one of those cases where there's a very loud minority,
Yeah,
which
I
would
agree.
be in this case the people that really care about the game, and that would make sense because I would say that now there's much more newer players than there would be old players probably. I don't
Oh,
have the
definitely.
number, you know.
Really.
That's the thing. And so how do we really know? And I feel like my whole problem with this conversation in the end is that newer players come into the game and they think that the discourse that you have to have is that the game is easy, but
Yeah.
let's not like, you better not let us find you having problems like hunting a Balahara or something, right? Because and so that conversation I feel has become so blurry but also so tired, because like the game is
Absolutely.
easy is like the right opinion to have, but it's a reductionist argument.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry to be like so insistent with this point in particular, but I do
No,
want
you're
to
fine.
find like
Yeah,
the
it's fine.
whole. I want to find the whole picture. Anyway, we can move on if you want to for this question. Let's see here. So, can you share some of the highlights of Team Lightside? Maybe.
I think the biggest, of course, is obviously going to be the Hunters Awards that happened
Oh
in
yeah.
February. Yep, during February.
Oh,
Basically, it was kind of like a entire community event, not just Team Lightside, but basically got like a lot of like community members all around the Monster Hunter space.
oh wow,
And
nice.
we had like an award show type thing that was hosted on Rurikon's channel that had like it was just
Damn.
basically like
Okay.
it was just basically like an award show with a lot of
Yeah.
like guests like Peppo, Gaijin Hunter, or like Marco Meatball, just celebrating the year for 2024 and just having, and I think that was like one of the top experiences of this year. I was just seeing all these like well-known Monster Hunter content creators just coming into chat and just reacting to like the awards event, and just there was like it was genuinely like that suit like the Smash Bros meme of just like everyone is here. Like if you knew that
Okay.
person, yeah, it was just like if you knew someone from the Monster Hunter community, you pretty much saw them in that chat there, just having a fun time, great time. I think that was really cool. But other than that, we have just kind of just do small community focused stuff, like just we have open lobbies, we make videos here and there. I think the most recent one was was this really dumb video of us trying to like make like or like recreate the Helldivers trailer
Oh, I think I
in
saw
Monster
it.
Hunter.
It's really
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah, that was just the stuff like that that we just enjoy doing. It's just we get like a dumb idea and I just go message Shin being like, so I have a dumb idea, and Shin goes like, okay, and then we just work on that. So stuff like that, just
That's
really fun
great.
stuff, just being able to work with everyone, and I think that's some really cool sides of Team Lightside that's come out of it.
Yeah, for sure. In your case, Shin, do you have any highlights, stories, moments that you would like to share about the Team Lightside community?
Yeah, having to be specific to TLS, I think the biggest highlight for me was in the open beta
Hmm.
when we are gathered to make some photos. And so I think that was like, I don't know, heartwarming for me, because it reminds me for what I really love of Monster Hunter, like just gathering with people, making photos. I think like it rekindled my love for the series at that time. So it was like really, really, really important for me, that part. Also, when we are recorded the I don't know how to call it, Maple. When we did the whole gathering hub with the diva
Oh,
song.
right. Yeah, we did like one of those have you ever seen like those drone shot videos of like people making commercial of like basically you have like this panning shot of like a restaurant and you have like a drone that goes into the restaurant getting like cool camera angles and you have like people basically doing scripted stuff to make it seem like it's basically like tries to make it like look lively and stuff. We ended up doing something like that for Monster Hunter with the new Gathering Hub with the title update of just basically showing everything the Gathering Lab had and just like having it like so that we have like scripted stuff being like we start from like the entrance and I'll be like the tents people and then they would start cooking on the campfire next to the tent so it looks like when the camera's there, you know, we see the hunters doing the cool thing, or I could say like the bowling people, and I'll pan to the bowling area, and then people will be bowling at that exact time to just make it seem like the Gathering Hub is lively and just show that. I think that was like a really cool experience. It took a
Yeah,
Sounds
while,
very
but
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, I think Shin. Oh yeah, Shin sent it, so
Yeah.
pretty
yeah.
cool.
Those two will be like my highlights of Thin Light Side.
Nice. Okay. All right. Well, and is there anything that you offer to the Monster Hunter community that you wish would be more valued?
Oh, yes. I think it's one of the reasons why I actually did the Hunters Awards was mainly because like you have so many niches and like groups in the Monster Hunter community. You have like the cosplayer, you have the speedrunners, you have the streamers and all that stuff. But I never really saw any like direct connection between these groups. Like you have your like you know you'll obviously see sometimes some streamers hanging out with cosplayers or like you know like interactions like that. But there was never really anything that bridged the community together to have this one big celebration or something like that. And that's kind of like the reason why the Hunters Awards happened. I wish that, you know, there are more content creators and like people that are encouraged to do content not just for themselves of making Monster Hunter content, but stuff that basically brings the community together, you know, like stuff like even like this podcast, like, you know, just having different members of the community just like talk and just have a good time. I really think should be valued more. Like just being able to connect with
Wow.
everyone
Yeah.
and just celebrate, you know, I think that's something that's really important for the Monster Hunter community, that especially with how shaky and like, you know, sensitive everyone are at the moment, is strongly needed and should be valued a lot more.
I really like that perspective, to be honest. Great. Yeah. And in your case, Shin, maybe you can talk about your own channel instead of like the light side community. When it comes to the content that you create, is there anything that you offer that you think should be more valued?
I don't think so. I think I always have like people valued in my content properly. I think at least for what I try to offer. At most, maybe. I don't know. Maybe my how do you spell it in English? Mm, I make some collage videos with music, like where with image of the game going to the rhythm of the music, and they usually don't get like valued enough. I think.
But
I'm not
wait,
sure how to. Yeah,
so
sorry.
are these videos like trying to showcase like different details and like cool areas of the game, stuff like that?
No, no, no. It's like it's like a montage with music.
Oh, like a
Doing like
cinematic thing.
yeah, like it's
Ah,
called
okay.
Mad normally, but I think it doesn't spread enough to get valued. While it's probably the videos that took me the longest to make, the most
Oh
effort, the most
no.
yeah, like
Oh
sometimes
no.
it took me months just to make one, and it's like I don't know, like 30 likes at most, then you make like some low effort thing and get thousands and thousands. And sometimes like, oh, come on, you know.
I think
But
that's just YouTube, sadly.
yeah,
Mm.
but but being honest, in general, I feel like everyone values what I offer, so I'm pretty
Nice.
happy in that sense.
Yeah, perfect. I will say, however, like, don't stop making those videos. Like, this thing at the end has to be for yourself too, right? It's for your
Oh
own
yeah,
enjoyment. So,
I want to
they
stop.
nice. Okay, yeah, because they do sound cool in concept. If that is something that you want to explore for yourself, yeah. Okay, so what is the most insane take that you've heard about Wilds so far?
Go
We're
ahead,
gonna go
Maple.
for it. Really?
Or the one that you
Uh,
disagree the most with can also be.
Yeah.
there's a bunch, but I think the I think the one that it's not exactly an insane take, but it was a discourse that basically made me just go like, why is this even being argued about? I think this was this was during the I think it was like last year's October when like the trailers were being revealed about like the gameplay for Wilds and stuff like that. There was like a short clip of you know how you can mount your sacred and sharpen?
Yeah.
There was an entire discourse about that exact feature of being able to go on a sacred and like sharpen to the point where there were like people going at each other like in personal insults and stuff like that. And I'm just like,
What's going on?
it's not that deep.
Yeah, what?
That just had it wasn't like I didn't really have any like 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 take on it, but it was just me looking at it like just from like an outside perspective.
Yeah, just
I'm
like
like,
dumbfounded,
why?
like what?
Just dumbfounded, like why is this even being like argued for? It's just a sacred writing on like you can just sharpen on a sacred, but people were like furious about this, just being like really angry, and I'm just like, damn, we need that open beta ASAP.
Yeah. And for you, Shin, what has been the most insane take that you've heard?
Okay.
Oh, no.
I'm trying to remember the exact. Maybe Maple can remember, but I think it blew my mind. Like I cannot believe this is real. There was like someone that mentioned like half the personalities of the community and made like a PowerPoint.
Oh my.
Do you know which one I'm talking about, Maple?
It's
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 meant.
is this the pillar? Is this the pillar? Or am I misremembering? Is it the guy that like pinged a bunch of people?
Yes. And started to answer like replies, like 20 replies to 20 tweets to one reply. It I
Uh,
I
it was-
I
I
I don't remember the context, but it was insane.
oh gosh. I think it was something to do with I don't know if it was I don't think it was difficulty related, but I believe it was something to do with the identity of the game and just how like
Yeah.
basically the whole argument was that some people were arguing that Monster Hunter Wilds is an like like unfinished game.
Oh yeah.
And it was I think it was that. Yeah, it was that. So the argument was the take was that they think Monster Hunter Wilds is unfinished because there are some things that, is kind of obvious that was removed from the game and added later on. Of course, I
Yeah.
can't guarantee like not I can't, confirm it because I'm not a Capcom person, but it seems like that, right? But someone made like a post about that, just being like, "Oh, Monster Hunter is like Monster Hunter Wilds is unfinished," and it basically blew up. And I can't remember the exact details, but there was this one person that was making like it was like endless pages amount of
Was yeah.
it was
Was
like
a lot of
it was like a
text.
huge wall of text trying to like defend the situation, and they were
Damn.
basically like mentioning and tagging like a lot of creators that basically had nothing to do with the situation. And it was just it was I don't yeah no that was quite an experience.
Maybe the
'cause
take wasn't so bad, but the execution was like
execution
Yeah,
was
it
it was
was amazing.
horrible. It was horrible. Like I understand like fighting like kind of like arguing against like the whole thing because like nothing's confirmed, but the way that person did it was it was quite an experience. Like there I wake up at like 4 a.m. in the morning, open up my phone, see that I'm like tagged in something, and there's this multi-page essay of like them just trying to like explain and justify why Monster Hunter Wilds is not a finished game. And I'm just like, it's not that deep. It's just not that. It's just I don't know
pretty
how else to say it.
much.
It's just not that
It's just
deep.
not that
Like,
deep, yeah.
who cares if a game has been
Yeah,
released unfinished or not? The fact is that the game is improving. That's what matters. But this person was like replying to like every single comment because like most of the like I think they tagged like almost like 30 plus people in that initial post
yeah.
being like asking for like help
Oh
and
my
like stuff
god.
like that. Yeah. And most of these people of course like replied to it because they were confused being like, yo, why was I tagged to this? And he would respond with like another like
It's more,
entire
yeah.
entire essay of just being like, why this is why I tagged you. This is like a kind of like a meme going on in like Team Lightside, like in like a as an inside joke.
Okay,
Because
I mean,
I was tagged as well. And I I hate saying it because it's but it is funny. The first message when like because I replied being like, why was I tagged in this? And the first message this person replies to me is, I tagged you maple syrup because you are a pillar in this community. I'm like, what an intro to say.
wow.
And I was just stun locked at some point. And now my community members make fun of me being like, oh my god, it's the pillar of the community. But that was quite an experience, yeah.
It was insane.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
It was insane, honestly. Go first,
Um,
Maple.
okay, sure, yeah. I think with the game, I think is just being able to do more dumb events right now. We have a bunch of like things on hold at the moment because everyone's busy with life.
Well,
But
if you want to make
yeah.
some announcements of
Oh
the
yeah,
events that
sure,
are
yeah,
coming, you just take the
yeah,
opportunity.
of course. Like we're thinking about doing like a more improved version of like the fashion event that we had. We had like a little small scaled like fashion event where like it's kind of like those like those like real life ones where like they walk down like this path, do a little couple poses and like leave
Yeah,
like
a runway.
yeah, like a runway. We tried doing something like that with the gathering hub, stuff like that. And other small scale events like we're thinking about doing like a bowling event or like a scavenger hunt with wilds, just being like turn off your HUD and like first person to find this one thing. Just dumb ways to have fun with the community. But I think in an overall goal currently, my biggest thing that I'm preparing for, again, we still have a lot of time for it, but I have been preparing for this year's Hunters Awards because last year with 2024, it was extremely we had to cut a lot of things because we only had around like a month and a half to prepare for it. So this year we want to do something a little bit more with the event and just being able to expand on what we were able to do with 2024 and just be able to create something even better for the community.
That sounds really good, actually. Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice. And in your case, Shinkrei, what are you up to with the game and with your channel, maybe, or with the community?
I'm having like right now like having a hard time like making goals for the game because I'm having issues sticking to the game playing right now. There's a lot of games around, a lot of backlog. So I'm having like I'm not engaged enough with Wilds right now in the way I've been engaged in the past. But I'm trying
Yeah.
right now to release like the video talk about Rey Dau in the comparison between the normal version and the T. Respecting to the TLC, I'm also like Maple, like getting ready for some more events and things to do. I'm also personally on my way checking out like people. I have like a tab with people checking how they are doing with the whole Monster Hunter community and things to see how can I see them in the future for the Hunters Awards if we make some the new version. I'm trying to
Mhm.
keep tracking of people to see how they engage, their comments, their replies, everything, in order to have like a very objective vision of them if they are considered for the Hunters Awards.
Yeah, nice.
Because as Maple said last time, we didn't have like a lot of time. There was like as an empty space without anything about Monster Hunter. But this time we have Wilds, um, an entire year to watch the community, how they behave and how they socialize with the people. Because in the end, I think the Hunters Awards is also about the community. So yeah, that's something I've been doing myself.
Perfect. Yeah.
Secondly,
Okay. Great. So to finish up with the podcast here, is there anything that you would like to say to the community, maybe to your followers or to new players, to any group in particular, or to the community as a whole?
Um.
mm,
Oh yeah, and I just want to thank the Monster Hunter community for being awesome. Like, of course, there's moments where the community is kind of like shaky in here like that, but I still firmly believe that Monster Hunter has the one of the greatest gaming communities out there. Like the amount of like people working together and just sharing the love for the same franchise like has been amazing to see. And I'm just really thankful for being able to have like a voice and even like a small say in the community. Like so it's just I'm really grateful for all of that and just yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And you, Shinkrei?
as a Maple, I also want to thank the community for our engaging with other people, signing the patient, and supporting me. I think is, as Maple said, one of the healthiest communities in gaming. There's obviously some issues recently because all people is like a bit tense, you know. But even with that, I think it's great. I only want to say one thing: it's fine to dislike one Monster Hunter game or few of them. It's fine. You don't have to love every single one entry. It's fine if you don't like Wilds. It's fine if you love it. It's fine. But you have to respect other people's opinions on the matter too. That's
Yeah.
all.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that with this episode of The Curious Hunter has been completed. So thank you very
Woo!
much, guys. I really appreciate your time. I will
Of
give
course.
credits and props to Maple because he is actually the one who proposed that we also bring Shinkrei into the podcast. So obviously, very thankful for that. I hope you guys had a good time. That the conversations was nice, and maybe I'll see you around. Who knows?
Sure.
Happy hunting.
Happy
Happy
hunting
hunting.
indeed.